The learning process. 10. Lessons learnt from the learning process. Now that we have looked at the whole learning process and are familiar with the tools used in each phase, we believe it is important to share some lessons learnt during the experience of implementing this route. To avoid confusions, it is important to begin by remembering what a learning process is not. It is not an evaluation. The learning process does not issue a judgment on whether the project, programme, initiative achieved what it hoped to attain, or whether it was relevant, effective, impactful, or sustainable. However, a learning process can provide inputs and help in the preparation of an evaluation because it asks the whys and the hows that underlie those attributes. It asks what worked well and what failed, which conditions enabled or limited the development of the experience. It doesn't seek to explain all aspects of an experience. It is not an exhaustive overview. It does not attempt to understand everything that happened or is happening in a given experience. Hence the importance of defining guiding questions that allow us to narrow down these areas of reflection and analysis. It is not the description of an experience. The learning process does not focus on narrating what has been done, but in order to carry out the process, it is necessary to understand what has been done and include descriptive components. It is not limited to just organising information, although organising available information is required to carry out the learning process. Having clarified these aspects, we will now share the main lessons learned we have gathered from our reflection on learning processes. We recommend taking them into account and applying them in the design and implementation of your own learning process exercises, especially if there is interest in promoting a learning culture in your organisations or institutions. One of the challenges that must be overcome by teams undertaking learning processes is taking the time to stop, reflect, and conclude collectively. Learning process exercises must consider the time factor during design and planning. Experience has shown that when stakeholders see the concrete, short-term usefulness of the learning process, they take the time to participate in it. However, it is important that the exercises respond adequately to the time available, whether this means a few hours, days, or even months. The other significant challenge is the actual application of the lessons learned and the recommendations in practice. That is, converting the lessons learned into knowledge. We have learnt that merely sharing or communicating lessons learned and recommendations doesn't guarantee their ownership. Faced with this challenge, it is essential to design specific strategies for ownership. These will depend largely on the organisational and institutional context, and therefore there are no recipes. However, in the toolkit we developed for the 4-phase roadmap, there are some ideas to promote ownership. And as we have identified the 2 main challenges, it has also been possible to recognise 4 enabling conditions for a learning culture, which in turn help to overcome the challenges mentioned. These are interdisciplinary teams open to reflecting beyond their fields of knowledge, clear lines of communication within teams that allow members to know what each other does, systemic thinking that connects the different elements of an experience. And perhaps one of the most important prerequisites is leadership that promotes their team's learning. The learning process does not need to be a separate or additional process to what is normally done. It should become a way of doing what is already being done. Asking the right questions at the right time and looking through the lenses that will allow us to see what is hidden in plain sight, because the day-to-day does not allow us to notice what is there. We hope this video series on the learning process will contribute to strengthening the learning culture in your organisations, allowing you to continuously improve your work.